Yeah, I've heard from people today who are so depressed at what happened. I mean, and not just the deaths. I mean, that's just god awful enough. But that the country has been so changed and so debased that this could happen that they don't want to hear any more about what happened. And yet, I felt I didn't even mean to devote this whole show as well as yesterday's on this, our own October 7, our own massacre of the Jews. But there was so much to say again today about something so terrible. And that's something that's going to change this country so much. Or will it? I mean, was Britain changed by the deadly London bombings of 2005 or by another Islamist who walked into an Ariana Grande concert in Manchester and blew himself up, killing another 22 people, many of them young girls? Although those attacks were different to Bondi because Jews weren't singled out there. But even that changed 2 months ago when another Islamist attacked a synagogue in Manchester. 2 Jews were killed there. Joining me from London is Tom Slater, editor of Spiked Online. Tom, great to see you again. Look, you have just written a terrific piece on our Bondi massacre, and it has a headline saying, "This must be a final straw." What did you mean?
Well, I think that as we've had in the wake of terror attacks in the UK, what I'm sure you don't want to see in Australia is more warm words, is more thoughts and prayers, is more airy platitudes
Thoughts and prayers
from
we've
politicians. No, exactly. And it's one of those things where it's not good enough anymore. It's not good enough in the wake of the horrific attack that you saw in Bondi. It's not good enough in the UK after the more than 25 years we've had of these kinds of Islamist massacres. What we need now is action. We need a confrontation with this evil in our midst. We need politicians who are willing to root out the people within our societies who want to go to war with those societies, who loathe freedom, who loathe the Jews, frankly, who loathe life. And I think if things like this aren't going to be the moment that shake us out of that kind of slumber, I really don't know what will be.
Yeah, but I mean, we've had our Prime Minister say, well, we're going to eradicate Jew hatred. How do you do that? How on earth do you do that? I mean, these demographic mistakes are impossible to fix. You can't go around censoring the verses in the Quran and other sacred texts that, attack Jews. You can't do any of that. What can you do?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's a case of taking this issue much more seriously than it has been beforehand. There has been a tendency to treat Islamist terrorism, Islamist anti-Semitism as essentially something which just happens from time to time. We do not have to actually live like this. There are obviously security implications. There's always that kind of line that is trotted out about when people are known to the security services and so on. But I think, broadly speaking, it's quite clear that there are many people within our societies walking the streets who loathe these societies. Now, of course, as you say, you can't go around throwing out liberal freedoms. You can't go around censoring people. You can't go around essentially trying to greet this authoritarianism with authoritarianism. But at the same time, wouldn't it be better to actually take this threat seriously, both on a security level and also a moral level, to condemn it? Because it's quite clear that in the UK, under Keir Starmer, and in Australia under Anthony Albanese, there's been an appeasement of this. There's been a green light given to this, recognising
Absolutely.
Palestine, rewarding Hamas and so on. Clearly, that's got to stop.
Well, I noticed that in Britain, it's one of the avenues that the public is screaming for is cuts in immigration, particularly legal immigration, and I suspect immigration from the third world. That's been very pronounced, and Nigel Farage is riding high in the polls. But Tom, there's been a lot of blame here for our Prime Minister. You attacked him in your piece as well. We've had American leaders also attack him. But if you have the same Jew hatred in Britain, isn't the problem bigger than any one leader and any one country?
No, I think that's fair to say, and I don't think any of us would have started from here, if we're being perfectly frank. These are the culmination of a lot of years-long, decades-long issues in relation to porous borders, in relation to state multiculturalism, in relation to a blind eye which has been turned to the world's oldest hatred as it has made a comeback. But at the same time, I think the least that we could ask of our politicians at a time like this is that they take the issue seriously, is that they come out with a clear programme as to how these things are going to be tackled. Whereas at the moment we treat terrorist attacks, anti-Semitic anti-Semitic attacks as if they're kind of like natural disasters. They're horrible, they're terrible, we mourn and we move on. That's not good enough anymore. And I think it's right to hold politicians to account when all they offer up is warm words rather than action at a time like this.
Yes, but I mean, the demography is a bit against you. I mean, London with its Muslim mayor, who doesn't seem very keen on tackling, extremism as much as other mayors would be. How have the terrorist attacks in Britain actually changed your country? So what could we expect here, do you think?
Well, it's a really important point because we have been rocked by terror attack after terror attack since 1999. 94% of the terror-related deaths that we've seen have been down to Islamist extremism. And yet, we talk about what we could do differently. Still, nevertheless, Islamist extremism isn't even the number one reason why people are referred to our counter-radicalization programs. There is this kind of inbuilt statewide political correctness around this issue, even after the bodies are piling up in the streets. There's so much simple things which haven't even been tried. Basically trying to look at the tens of thousands of people we have on our own watch list. It's 3/4 of our MI5 caseload are taken up by Islamist terrorism, and yet many of these people are still walking the streets. So I think it's one of those things where, of course, we need to talk about policy, and also we need to bear in mind that not everywhere around the world, even in the Muslim world, does not have this issue. But I think Western societies in particular, gripped by multiculturalism and political correctness, have been, if anything, more hesitant, more feeble, more cowardly in response to this attack than even many other places that we might seek to learn from. So that we wouldn't start from here, but we do have to. And I think that starts with action rather than just words talking.
Yeah, I think part of the problem too is that countries like yours, and particularly ours, trash their own symbols, trash their own traditions, their symbols of national identity, and they don't give anything for new immigrants or the children of immigrants to feel that is something they should give their loyalty to, feel pride in themselves. So they retreat to their own identity groups to get that feeling of belong to something bigger than themselves. Isn't that an issue too in Britain?
Oh, absolutely. Because we can't purely look at this in terms of people who are coming into the country. You've also got to ask the question of what country are they arriving into? And precisely as you say, they're arriving into countries which are self-loathing, which, if anything, lend credence to the kind of grievance narratives which are put about by the Islamists, which preach the idea that these prosperous, Western, liberal, enlightened countries actually hate minorities, or actually set against the people that actually we welcome. And that's a big part of addressing that, is reversing that kind of self-loathing, definitely.
Tom Slater, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.